Leo. What's up, Leo? It's your girl D here with 8th House Energy, here to do a Mercury retrograde Sagittarius lunar eclipse reading for you. I hope all is well with you guys. This is a general read. Take what resonates, leave the rest. We are combining tarot and astrology here to tell you about how these energies, specifically the Mercury retrograde and the Sagittarius lunar eclipse, may affect you as a sun sign or ascendant Leo. So, let's talk about the Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde. Well, we know Mercury is the planet of communication. It is the planet of how you communicate, how you process what someone says to you. Communication can come in various forms. It isn't just verbal. It's how you express yourself as well, the clothes you wear, things like that. Those are forms of communication. Mercury is the planet of processing that. Now, Mercury also rules the conscious mind, right? And if you have a chart, right, an astrology chart, which consists of a large circle divided into 12 slices. Gemini, the sign of Gemini, is the opposite polarity of Sagittarius, which is why I'm doing these together for you. All right, because Gemini, Mercury retrograde is in the house of Gemini, and the lunar eclipse that we're going to be experiencing is in the house of Sagittarius. So for you, Leo, Gemini is in your 11th house, okay? And the opposite polarity of the 11th house is the 5th house, which is, of course, the house you rule. But for you, on your chart, it's going to be the 5th house. So, for example, say we have a chart here, right? Say this is an astrology chart. Now, usually you are Leo, you rule the 5th house. That's what you normally rule. But if we are looking at a chart for someone who has an ascending sign or a sun sign in Leo, when we draw the chart, whatever your sun sign is going to go here in the 1st house. This is why I always tell you guys, you have every sign in your chart, okay? Sometimes the signs don't have planets in them, sometimes they do. But you have every sign in your house. This is why when I do readings, I don't say, oh, it's only sun, moon, rising, or Venus, because it can apply anywhere. Leo is somewhere in your chart. Even if it's Saturn in Leo, you may be able to resonate with a Leo reading, okay? So, Leo is your 1st house. So the opposite polarity of the 1st house is the 7th house, right? So for you, if Leo is here, the opposite of Leo is Aquarius. So, since Leo is here traditionally with the 5th house, like, so for traditionally, we start with Aries. Aries rules the 1st house. Then we have Taurus. Then we have Gemini. Then we have Cancer. Then we have Leo. After Leo, right, we have Virgo. Then we have Libra. Then we have Scorpio. Then we have Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and then Pisces. Well, we're looking at, since we're talking about Leo being here, this is Leo. Then after Leo comes what? Virgo. After Virgo comes what? Libra. After Libra comes what? Scorpio. After Scorpio comes Sagittarius. And the opposite polarity of the 5th house is the 11th house. So this is where Aquarius would be if we were to draw a chart with Leo being in your 1st house. Mercury is here. No, Mercury is here. And Sagittarius is here. All right. So Sagittarius being in the 5th house. The 5th house talks about the opposite polarity of the 5th house is the 11th house. The 5th house is all about you. The 11th house is about everybody. Okay. The 5th house is all about your creative energies and, you're on the stage, and then the 11th house is about, okay, so like Leo is the star, right? But the 5th house, Leo is the star. When we look at the opposite polarity of Aquarius, Aquarius looks at the constellations, which is a group of stars, right? So when we're talking about Leo versus Aquarius, we're talking about someone who, okay, you're talking about self-centered energy, not in a negative way, but self-centered energy versus energy concerning everybody. So this is about self-concern, and this is about concern for everybody, right? Just to give an just a general description between the opposite polarities of Aquarius and Leo. So sometimes as a Leo, if you're in your darker energy, you could be in the darker side of Aquarius. And if you're an Aquarius and you're in your shadow energy, you could be in the darker side of Leo. So this is why Leos in the negative energy and Aquarius is in negative energy can be very narcissistic, because they're both tapping into that inner core of the dark energy between them two. So there's a lot of similarities between the two, and then there's the direct difference. The more similarities you have would be the closest to the center. The less similarities you have would be closer to the outer parts of it. So that's just a general understanding of the opposite polarity of Leo and Aquarius. So Gemini is going to be in your 11th house. All right. So when we talk about the 11th house, we're talking about the energy of like-minded individuals, people getting together for a common cause. When we talk about people making long-term plans. When we talk about the 5th house, we talk about someone concerned about themselves and what's going on with them. Someone who the 5th house has to do with fun and play and instant gratification, where the 11th house deals with long-term plans, growth, excuse me, long-term plans and growth. Okay. The 5th house deals with children, where the 11th house deals with, the mature adult, So those are the opposite polarities of the 5th and 11th house just in general. So when we have Gemini in retrograde in the 11th house, Gemini is the logical mind, right? And the opposite polarity of Gemini is Sagittarius, and Sagittarius deals with the higher mind, the higher conscious, the subconscious. So when we talk about Sagittarius, we're dealing with foreign travel. These are the stereotypical things. Foreign travel. We're talking about your philosophy on life, like how you live life, how you go about things. And that's based on the things you've experienced and wisdom, right? So that's why Sagittarius rules wisdom. It deals with philosophy and religion. If you're not religious or spiritual, then it deals with just basically how you go about looking at things and how you believe, your logic and reasoning as far as the subconscious. When we're dealing with Gemini, we're dealing with the logical mind. So Mercury. Mercury's in Gemini. So when we're dealing with Mercury, it's the processing of information. And then the house of Gemini, it's like, what are you processing? Okay. So it deals with the processing of your childhood years, your formative years, like where you grew up. Some of you may have grown up in the city versus some of you grown up in the suburbs versus some of you grew up in the country or in the woods or what have you. So it deals with your early years as far as where you grew up. Gemini deals with your extended family. So your cousins, your brothers and sisters, your aunts and uncles, your grandma, your grandpa. Gemini deals with local travel. So traveling within the neighborhood, like to go to the grocery store or to go to camp or to go to work or to go to get some gas. It also deals with local travel, like within your country. Now, the opposite polarity, of course, is Sagittarius. Sagittarius deals with long distance travel. Okay, so overseas, outside of your country. It deals with the higher mind. So not what goes on in the logic mind, but what's in the higher mind. So what goes on in the logic mind is, just the everyday mundane stuff that you have to remember. What goes on in the subconscious mind is maybe the things that you've experienced and that you've taken wisdom from, and you've gotten wisdom from it. So with Gemini, Mercury in retrograde here in the 11th house. Okay, some of you could be dealing with memories of people who you used to be friends with, because 11th house deals with like-minded individuals. It deals with your social life, right? So some of you could be reevaluating your friendships. If you're in religious or if you're in any organizations, especially if they're religious in nature, some of you could be reevaluating your purpose in those organizations. Do they have a purpose in your life? Some of you, if you're in those organizations, maybe you're reevaluating if you want to continue. Some of you who are not in organizations, maybe you want to get into some. Maybe you're looking for some to get into, because Aquarius deals with finding like-minded individuals, right? So Sagittarius, on the other hand, is dealing with the philosophy or the views, the philosophy, the religious views or the spiritual views of the groups that you may be in. Okay, so with the lunar eclipse in Sagittarius, lunar eclipses deal with the removing of emotions and feelings that no longer serve you. Okay, so when we deal with the logical mind to the subconscious mind, something that happens to you. Let's take an example of how that journeys through your mind. Something happens to you, right? And in your logical mind, you're dealing with the mundane pieces of it. Okay, like, oh damn, okay, I have a boyfriend, we're doing well, blah blah blah. Now, say you and that boyfriend broke up. Okay, some people, they get over it and they move on. Okay, that's when things process normally. It processes through the logical mind, it's over, and then it sends it up to the subconscious mind, where it's like, okay, I've learned certain things in this relationship. This is what I've learned, and I've brought it to closure. Now I can use the information I learned from that relationship and call it wisdom because I've learned from it. Well, sometimes with Mercury retrograde, sometimes things don't go from the logic mind. Well, not even with Mercury retrograde. In general, sometimes we can't process things. And sometimes it gets stuck in a logical mind. Maybe because we didn't deal with it, because maybe we're busy with life and we didn't have time to really process the emotional piece of coming out of that relationship. And so when Mercury goes in retrograde, it clears out the logical mind of all that residue that should have went to the subconscious mind. So for some of you, that's what's going to be going on in reference to friendships or like-minded organizations. So what I'm doing right now is pulling two cards. One for the Mercury retrograde, which is reflecting in the 11th house for you of Gemini. And then one for the lunar eclipse, which is represented in the 5th house of Sagittarius for you. All right. And so with each card, we're going to talk about how it may show up in your life, how these energies may show up in your life, and what may be going through your mind during this time. So let me just get two clarifiers out and we'll dig in. So we'll get one clarifier for Mercury and then one clarifier for Sagittarius. So if I clarify these further, it's because they are major arcanas, all right? And of course, we'll break those down. So with that being said, giving you the, the overview of what we're going to be looking at, let's look at Gemini, which is in your 11th house of like-minded individuals, your social life, your friends, the organizations that you belong to, okay, whether it's a fraternity, whether it's a sorority, whether it's the chess club, whether it's the golf, you belong to a golf club, any organization where people get together for one common cause, okay? So the symbol that we have here, first of all, I'm using runes, runes. They are another form of divination, just like tarot cards are a form of divination. Cards or symbols that are used to interpret the energies that we can't see and we can't touch, but we can definitely feel. So look up runes, runes, if you want to learn more about runes. These cards I got on Amazon.com. So for those of you who maybe are tarot card readers and you're interested in expanding your divination palette, runes are a great form of divination that you can use and incorporate in your readings. I find that, they work really well. So this particular symbol of the rune is called the Hagalas, and I'm going to show you, see on the back of the card, it tells you the symbol, it tells you what the theme is, and it also breaks down the keywords and some of the things that represent this rune. So you can, stop and pause and read this, but I'm going to go ahead and read it to you here. So this represents a hailstorm. So the keywords are disruption, distress, storm, setback, hidden blessings, unexpected. We also talk about recover from a crisis, finding the hidden blessing, transformation, accepting nature's power. So to me, this symbol represents in the tarot, it represents the tower energy, right? Doesn't that sound familiar with the tower, what I was just reading? Unexpected destructive forces, forces beyond your control, crisis with a hidden benefit in it. That's what the tower is. A lot of people look at the tower as something disastrous and terrible. But what it does is when the tower moment occurs, one thing that you can be assured of is it's clearing out something that you should not have, or it's clearing you away from a path that you should not be going on, whether you realize it or not. Usually what happens when a tower moment occurs, it happens because the universe is sending you messages telling you, hey, turn left right here. And you keep going straight. Or you decide to go right. Then you keep going down the road and the universe will say, hey, turn left here. you refuse to turn left. Either you refuse to, or you don't, maybe you misinterpret the map, meaning you misinterpret the messages the universe is giving you, or you just blatantly ignore it and want to do what you want to do, right? You don't want to hear what the universe is telling you. You want what you want. And we all are like that sometimes. And what happens is the universe says no, pats you on the ass, and throws you a tower moment. So, what you may want may not come to you, and you may find that that's terrible. So maybe you wanted to get into this school. You applied 20 times, and each time you got denied. But you keep applying, keep applying, keep applying. And the universe says no, 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 no. Then you finally get into the school because you won't stop applying. You get in after the 21st time, and then as soon as you get into the school, God forbid something happens and you have to drop out in the first semester, right? The tower moment of you dropping out in the first semester is the universe telling you, I told you that this was not for you, right? So that's an example of a tower moment. So unexpected change, ruined plans, sudden crisis, seeks the cloud's silver lining. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. A blessing in disguise, right? Unexpected destructive forces, right? So that represents what's going on in the 11th house for you, for the house of friendships, social life, and organizations with like-minded people. So there's some changes going on there. So some of you may have gone through some situations where you've split up from these organizations that you were in, or you're no longer friends with these people. Okay. We have that clarified with the Two of Cups in reverse. So that could even be relationships, okay? Your social life has to do with people that you are intimate with as well, not just your homies or your girls, right? It also deals with love. So for some of you, you went through a terrible breakup with the Two of Cups in reverse. Now, remember what I was telling you that in a situation of a breakup, it's interesting that these cards came out because I gave the scenario of you're in a relationship and you break up. Some people, they're able to get over it and move on. So that processing of the logical mind that the relationship is over is then passed on to the subconscious mind, where you learn the lessons from the breakup and you move on. Well, sometimes some people can't get over the breakup, right? So what happens with that information? It stays stuck in the logical mind. It doesn't process and go to the subconscious mind because you haven't learned from it. In order for it to go to the subconscious mind, you have had to extract the wisdom out of the situation, meaning that you learned what you could have done differently as well. Not just blaming the person, but what red flags did you ignore and what you could have done differently. Because wisdom is all about taking power and control of the situation and learning what you could have done better. That's what happens when it transfers from the logical mind to the subconscious mind. Well, sometimes we don't get there. Sometimes we're not able to get over the situation, right? So it stays in the logical mind. Well, when Mercury goes in retrograde, what the retrograde does is it clears out all of that stuff in the logical mind that shouldn't be there. It should have been processed and sent to the subconscious mind. Well, why didn't it get sent to the subconscious mind? Well, that's what Mercury retrograde is all about. You figuring that out. And the scenario I gave in reference to the universe telling you to turn right and, telling you to turn left, but you decide to go straight or turn right, you can apply that into your own individual situation. What I was telling you was just giving you an example of how you can apply the energy to your situation. All right. I'm not saying that you're going through this. I'm saying this is an example of it, right? But some of you actually are going through this. Others of you just apply it into your life where a tower moment occurred. Take a look back at that situation where the universe was giving you red flags about it and you didn't see it, or you chose to ignore it. Because then what will happen is it'll be processed and sent to the subconscious mind and you will get rid of it. Now let's talk about the subconscious mind. We have the rune called Tiwaz. It's spelled Tiwaz. Okay, and so here's the information on that. So feel free to pause and read it if you would like. But this is all about the warrior, honor, spiritual strength, preparedness, self-sacrifice, spiritual self-discipline. Achieving victory with honor, righteous success, support, noble causes. Prepare for battle, focus. Challenges to overcome, self-discipline and honor, sharpening your body, your mind, and your sword. Now, this is occurring in your 5th house. Okay, we talked about the 5th house being about instant gratification, instant pleasures. The 5th house talks about, for example, you can compare the 5th house to the opposite polarity of the 11th house by saying, okay, the 5th house is a one-night stand, where the 11th house is a long-term, committed, stable relationship. Hold on a sec. I turned that. I caught that as quickly as I can. It is like what 1:30 at night, 1:30, 2 o'clock at night. I usually do my readings overnight. It's 2 o'clock in the morning where I'm at, and the radio was just banging from this car, so I had to turn it off real quick. I digress. So the Tiwa symbol, it's going to be, this is what's representing the Sagittarius energy for you in the fifth house for you, Leo. All right. So the fifth house, like I said, the basic general understanding of the fifth house is instant gratification. So it's like a one night stand compared to the opposite polarity of the 11th house, which talks about a long-term committed relationship, right? So we have the Tiwa symbol in the fifth house where your Sagittarius lunar eclipse is at. So let's talk about the lunar eclipses. Lunar eclipses deal with moon energy. What does the moon deal with? The moon deals with your intuition. It deals with your psychic abilities and your creative energy. All right. So how do I want to say this? Okay, so when we're dealing with lunar eclipses are eclipses that we use, right? We take those lunar eclipses, or the best way to use lunar eclipses, I should say. The best way to use lunar eclipses is to look at whatever emotions and feelings that you have that were unresolved. In this case, it could be the splitting up of a relationship or the splitting up of friendships, all right? And maybe you didn't get over it. So you're now taking that energy because you didn't process it in a logical mind correctly for it to go to the subconscious mind. Mercury's in retrograde saying, okay, look, I'm cleaning out this closet. We got to get all these emotions and feelings out of here. And in order for you to get them out of here, you have to actually look at them and review them and figure out where they're supposed to go. They're supposed to go to the subconscious mind. So it's like, okay, why didn't it go there? So with Mercury retrograde, you're thinking about that. So when it comes to the subconscious mind and you trying to send it there, it's like about being achieving victory and honor, okay? Being prepared for battle. So some of you is just dealing with the challenges, overcoming the challenges of coming out of that friendship or coming out of that organization or coming out of that relationship. We have that clarified with the Six of Wands in reverse, which is what? Leo energy. All right? So when we're dealing with the Six of Wands, we're dealing with Jupiter in Sagittarius. I'm sorry, Jupiter in Leo. Now, Jupiter, in this case, it's in retrograde because it's in reverse. So Jupiter is all about expansion and growth. Well, in this case, it's all about, when it's in reverse, it's all about the opposite. So expansion and growth is, the opposite is, things decreasing, okay, getting smaller. So that's your friendships, the people you associate with, the groups that you're around. Some of you were not able to process the fact that a relationship is over, long story short. Okay, it's difficult for you to accept, because the Six of Wands in reverse could represent defeat. It could also represent somebody talking bad about you. So maybe there was a situation here where one of these people or so-called friends of yours was talking bad about you, or it could be vice versa. Well, if it was you talking bad about these people and you're not friends, these people may come to your mind because of your conscious. Because again, you're clearing out that conscious energy in Mercury in the logical mind. And as you're clearing it out, you have to look at why it hasn't been processed. Some of you didn't want to accept the reality of, okay, I was the one who did wrong. Or some of you are not able to accept the fact that this person did you wrong and you're not able to get over it. So it's one or the other, right? So how do you know what energies to focus on? Well, during this Mercury retrograde energy, which is from May 23rd through June 22nd, that's the hardcore meat and potatoes of it. Of course, we have the 2-week pre-shadow period, which started May 16th. And then we have the post-shadow period, which is from June 22nd to July 6th. So we'll be feeling the energies basically from May 16th through July 6th with Mercury retrograde. So during that time frame, whoever comes to your mind the most as far as friends that you no longer associate with, whoever comes to your mind the most during that time, that's the situation of the relationship that you want to look at and understand what you could have done differently so that you can process it so that it goes to the subconscious mind as you learn from it and now you're taking it in as wisdom. Some of you have to learn to accept the defeat that the relationship is no good. Some of you may have to learn to accept the fact that these people were talking bad at you, so they were not your real friends. Or it could have been that you were talking bad about somebody and you're not their real friend, or what have you. Whatever way, reverse it as need be. But that's just an example of the energies that you might be looking at. But it's going to be in the area of your friendships and your associations and people that you deal with. And it's also going to be about you looking at why those things didn't work out and accepting the fact that they didn't work out. Okay? So, with that being said, let's pull a card to help you guys. This cards that we're going to pull, well, the one card we're going to pull is a card that will tell you what energies you could embody or try to embody so that you're able to help process this information and get it out the logical mind and send it to the subconscious, right? Because, we know Sagittarius deals with wisdom, and that's where the lunar eclipse is. And then also, speaking of eclipses, we're eclipsing out energy that we no longer need. So we're dealing with the moon, which is emotions. So once you come to terms with this situation here and you decide, okay, yeah, I could have done this differently. I should have seen the red flags about this person. They were always asking me questions or doing this or doing that. Or, you know what, I just don't understand why they didn't do it, why they did what they did. And I'm just going to let it go and move on. It was hard for me to deal with because it was betrayal, but I can't keep holding on to this energy. So the lunar eclipse is a great way for you to say, okay, let me get rid of that, right? Now, that's what lunar eclipses are about. They're about eclipsing negative emotions and feelings that are just sitting there and not doing anything for you. Okay? So you're getting them out of the closet. And the lunar eclipse is on May 26th. We're going to be in those energies for 2 weeks, and then after that comes the solar eclipse. So the lunar eclipse is all about eclipsing out, emotions that no longer serve you, that you've been holding on to because you didn't process it or you didn't learn a lesson from it. Once you clear all that out, then 2 weeks later, the solar eclipse comes in, and that clears the way for new intuitive energies, new creativity. So that's the whole purpose of eclipses and retrogrades, is to find out what you're still holding on to, why you're holding on to it, why you haven't processed it, and to let it go. So this is great energy for you to really sit down and think about the things that you didn't get over, as far as your friendships, as far as your relationships, any kind of relationships, what you didn't get over and why those relationships failed. Accept your partner situation. If you can make amends and you want to make amends, make amends. This is all about putting your pride to the side too, with the Six of Wands in reverse. So some of you, it might be about putting your pride to the side. So for some of you may want to reach out to somebody. You can, if you want to, and say sorry, but sometimes people won't accept your apology, and that's okay, but at least you've cleared your karma, okay, by apologizing. If they want to accept it, they can. If they want to accept it and then don't talk to you anymore, that's fine. You don't even have to want to talk to them anymore. You could just want to say, okay, I'm trying to better myself. I know I did wrong. Let me at least apologize. They could tell me, okay, go to hell. And it's like, okay, fine, I'll go to hell. But I just wanted to apologize and let you know I was sincere about, feeling bad the way I treated you. And somebody might want to come to you and do that as well. So, be open to closure. Just because someone apologizes to you doesn't mean you have to be open up to them and get back in a connection with them, and you'll know who it is that you'll need to talk to and who it is you'll need to address, because these people will come to your mind during these time frames, okay? So with that being said here, what would be the energy that you would need to embody to try to fix this out? Well, it's definitely going to be a challenge because we're dealing with a square. A square is an aspect in your chart. We have squares, we have sextiles, we have trines, we have quincunxes, and we have oppositions, okay? And what these things represent is the relationship between planets. So a square represents a challenge. So the distance between one planet, say the planet is up here and then the other planet is down here, the distance represents what aspect it would be. So this particular aspect is a square. So squares mean that the planet here and here is 90 degrees apart from each other when we talk about degrees in your chart. Okay, so a 90-degree, no matter no matter what planet it is, it creates a square, which represents a challenge. So as a result, challenges create tension. They stall progress. They sound an alarm. They motivate. They pressure you into things. They frustrate you. They cause demands. They cause struggles. They help you to reorient your direction and your thought. Remember that tower moment, making you reorient and go a different direction. It can hurt, you know. Sometimes these things work out, and then sometimes there's reconciliation. Sometimes. Okay, so when we talk about the Mercury retrograde, some of you may have friends coming back towards you. If they're not coming back towards you, then maybe they'll be thinking about you, and you may pick up on that because they may be heavy on your mind, or vice versa. All right. So it's going to be a challenge with you dealing with this energy and trying to process it, but in the end, it will be helpful for you. So these energies, you know, if you had something that you haven't dealt with and you know you need to deal with it, you just haven't had time to deal with it because life goes on. You ain't got time to break down right now. You got to go to work. You got to take care of the kids. You got to make sure the house is taken care of. You got, you know what I mean? So sometimes you don't have time to break down and process some things. Try to find time with this energy between now and June 22nd to break down. All right, and process that and get that out, especially if you're someone who's on a spiritual ascension and you're trying to be better and do better. Okay, so that's what I got for you, Leo, for the Mercury retrograde and the Sagittarius lunar eclipse. If you need a personal read, I'm at 8thhouseenergy@gmail.com. Check the description box below to reach out to me. Please click the like button if you found that this was helpful. If you want to leave a comment in reference to how it resonates, that's the only comments I'm taking, is how it resonated with you. If it didn't resonate, you don't have to write that. Don't waste your time and don't waste mine, right? But if it resonated and you want to share, feel free to leave that in the comments. So I love you guys, and I want to thank you for checking out the video. Take care of yourselves.